Hello and welcome to the next video in the Esperanto 101 series. Today we're going to look at how to form basic adverbs and the personal pronouns. Adverbs can be made from roots just like nouns and adjectives can, except that instead of using an O or an A suffix, you add an E to the root to form an adverb. Let's look at the noun facto, which means fact. If you turn the O into an A, you get an adjective, facta, factual or real. Pinocchio might have wanted to be called a facta knabo, a real boy. If you replace the final letter with an E, you get the adverb that means factually or really, facte. So, being used in a sentence, you might say, I really want this thing. And so you would use facte, as it's modifying the verb itself to describe how much you want the thing. Now, adverbs compare just like adjectives do. Adverbs can modify other adverbs. If you said to someone that you were doing well, you would say bone, which is the adverb form of bona, good. If you want to say you're doing better, you'd say you were doing pli bone. And if you wanted to say you were doing the best, you would say la ple bone, the best. However, unlike nouns and adjectives, not every single adverb in Esperanto is formed from a root with E. Many Esperanto adverbs are roots unto themselves. For example, here's today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Hodiaŭ, hieraŭ, and morgaŭ. They don't end in E. They aren't derived from nouns. They are words unto themselves. They are roots all by themselves. Here's a few more adverbs that don't end in E and don't come from nouns. Pli and play themselves, as we said before, modify adjectives or other adverbs. And ankaŭ, we mentioned in the pronunciation exercise, is the word you use when you're saying also or too. So adverbs are a very mixed bag of words in Esperanto. They end in many sorts of different things. You know, they're not like nouns and adjectives in that they're quite such a neat category. But it is still the case that when you have an adverb that is related to a noun or adjective, like bone is related to bona, or facte is related to facto, that you can derive them using an E. Pronouns. Let's look at the basic personal pronouns. As you can see, these all end in I, although unfortunately they're not the only words in the language that end in I. For example, we saw pli ends in I. The pronoun I, the first person singular pronoun, is me. And for you, vi. And for he, she, and it, we have li, she, and ji. For the plural forms, we is ni, you, plural, is vi, and they is ili. Now you might be noticing that you is the same in both singular and plural. This is much like modern English usage, or like the fact that in French you can use vous, which is a plural form for the formal in the singular as well. You know, if you're being polite to somebody, even if it's just a single person, you say vous, just as you would say vous to a plural group of people, whether it's polite or not. Esperanto doesn't really have the formality thing, but it's become customary in Esperanto to use vi for both singular and plural you, just like it is in English. So that makes it a little bit easier. There is, strictly speaking, a separate singular form of you that you would translate thou, and it's pronounced tsi, but it's very rare in practice. You'd see it in biblical translations or anything where you wanted to have a nice archaic feel, but in everyday usage, it's basically unused. The pronoun oni, on the other hand, is used in everyday speech. It's the indefinite pronoun when you're saying one, like in one must be better than that, or one must think carefully, or you when it's used generically, like in a recipe. You have to stir the stew very thoroughly. Anytime like that where it's not really a specific person, then you use oni. Possessive adjectives. Okay, I can say I and you and he and she. What about my and your and his? All you have to do to form a possessive adjective is stick the adjective ending a on the personal pronoun. So my is Mia, your is Via, his, her, and its are Leah, Shia, and Gia. And similarly for the plural forms. So let's use them in a couple of phrases. Our dog would be Nia Hundo, derived from ni, which means we. In case you're wondering how to remember ni as we, by the way, if you've used French or Spanish, you will have seen pronouns that begin with N, nosotros, or nous. Comes from the same thing. They all ultimately come from the Latin nos, and similarly, V for you comes from the Latin vos. So, Nia Hundo, our dog. Your books. Now notice, the possessive adjectives are just like any other adjectives in that they take a plural. So if I'm talking about your books, plural, I have to say vi libroi, not just via. And if I was saying one's house in some abstract piece of writing, like one's house should be kept very clean or something like that, it would be onia domo. In the next video, it's time for us to take on verbs. Verbs are pretty complicated in most languages, and they can get complicated in Esperanto too, but at least they get complicated in a very regular and consistent way. Thanks again for watching.